I went to a cabin in the woods to escape the world. But something followed me back. And it was never human. I drove deeper into the forest than I ever had before. The tall pines leaned closer as the road narrowed into a dirt trail, half covered with fallen leaves and early patches of snow. The winter chill bit sharper than I remembered, every breath a small misty cloud. I was desperate for silence, a break from city chaos and noise inside my head. The cabin was a refuge, isolated, forgotten, untouched for months. No electricity, no internet, no phone signal. Just wood, stone, and nature. A chance to disappear. The truck's tires crunched along the rough path, and I gripped the steering wheel tighter, feeling anticipation and a trace of unease I couldn't explain. The sun was setting, the sky turning bruise purple behind the trees. Shadows stretched long and cold. I parked near the cabin's small porch and climbed out, the cold cutting through my jacket like needles. The smell of pine, wet earth, and something deeper, old wood, smoke residue filled my nostrils. I took a deep breath, letting it fill my lungs with cold clarity I hadn't felt in years. This was what I needed. I hauled my bags inside, a duffel with clothes, a small cooler with food, a backpack with survival gear, and my journal. The cabin was small, maybe 500 square feet. A tiny stove in the corner, a bed pushed against the far wall, a woodpile stacked neatly outside the door. I made a fire in the stove, its warmth slowly chasing away the chill. Outside, the forest darkened. I sat by the fire and opened my journal. For the first time in months, the pages felt alive beneath my fingertips, a lifeline to the person I wanted to be again. The night passed quietly. The crackle of burning wood, the distant rustle of wind through branches. But then, in the early hours before dawn, a sound shattered the stillness. A howl. Low, mournful, distant. My heart jumped. I sat up, straining to listen. Another howl answered, closer this time. A chorus in the dark. Wolves. The thought sent a chill deeper than the cold. I pressed my forehead against the cold window pane, looking into the black forest. Nothing moved. Only shadows and silence. The howls faded as dawn seeped through the trees, but unease lingered. I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes watching me from the dark woods. I tried to distract myself, stacking wood, checking supplies, boiling creek water just beyond the clearing. But every time I stepped outside, the forest felt too quiet, too watchful. By the second night, the howls returned, louder and more frequent. They circled the cabin, weaving around the trees like ghosts. Sleep came fitfully, interrupted by every snap of twig or rustle of leaves. On the third day, I found paw prints in fresh snow. Large, unmistakable prints, encircling the cabin and pressing close to the door. I traced the paths carefully, heart pounding with each step. They had been here, watching. At night, I kept the fire burning bright, banging pots whenever scratching started at the walls. I knew they were testing me, probing for weakness. Food became precious. I rationed carefully, eating only the bare minimum, melting snow for water. I dared not venture far, not with those eyes lurking just beyond the trees. On the fourth night, I saw them clearly. 4 wolves, their eyes reflecting moonlight, standing silent beyond the tree line. They didn't move closer, but the message was clear. I was trapped. My mind raced, calculating, remembering survival advice: make noise, keep fire, barricade entrances. But what if they tried to break in? Would I be ready? The 5th day brought bitter cold and exhaustion. My muscles ached, hunger gnawed relentlessly. Still, the wolves didn't attack. They circled, scratched, howled, always there. I shored up the door with furniture, nailing planks across weak spots. Every shadow outside felt like a threat. Inside, silence grew heavy, the weight of isolation pressing down. The 6th night, I heard something on the roof. Heavy, deliberate footsteps. Not light paw patter, but something else. I grabbed my shotgun, heart hammering, scanning the dark beams. But nothing appeared. The snow shifted, falling from eaves like cold tears. I realized then this wasn't just about survival. It was a test. Of patience. Of fear. Of will. By the seventh day, my strength was fading. The wolves' presence had become a constant pressure, a living nightmare seeping into dreams. I saw them in every shadow, heard their howls whispering threats at night. I wrote in my journal, trying to hold sanity. The eighth night, they attacked the door. Scratches turned to crashes. I fired shots into darkness, trembling, shouting. But the door held. The handle turned slowly once. Then stopped. Then silence. Dawn came fragile and cold. When I opened the door on the ninth day, the wolves were gone. The snow undisturbed. No tracks. Nothing. I left the cabin behind, haunted but alive. Sometimes, in the city's noise and lights, I still hear those howls, reminding me they're watching. Waiting. I didn't remember much of the drive back. Only that the forest swallowed my rearview mirror, and I refused to look back. The gas tank was nearly empty when I reached the first small town, a quiet stretch with a diner, hardware store, and gas station with one working pump. I stumbled inside the diner like I'd crawled from a grave. My clothes dirty, beard unkempt, hands cracked from cold. The waitress looked up with a polite smile that froze halfway when she saw my eyes. "Coffee?" she asked slowly. I nodded. I sat there 2 hours, holding the cup, trying to make sense of what I'd lived through. I didn't know how to explain it. The wolves. The silence. The door handle turning. No one would believe me. Not entirely. And honestly, I wasn't sure I did either. I told myself I needed sleep, food, rest. That isolation had done things to my mind. But every time I closed my eyes, I heard the wolves' breath at the window. The way they knew where I was. The way they waited, day after day, for me to crumble. Back in the city, I tried returning to normal life. Friends asked how the trip went. I gave vague answers, quiet. Cold. Solitary. I didn't mention the wolves. The cabin. How close I'd come to dying in that wooden tomb. But I started noticing strange things. Snowy footprints outside my apartment door even when there was no snow. Hairline scratches near windows 10 floors up. Faint growling in dead of night. I told myself it was imagination. Paranoia. PTSD. But signs kept coming. Once, a scrap of fur on the fire escape. Another time, waking to find my front door unlocked though I was sure I'd locked it. I kept the shotgun by the bed. Drank more than I should. Checked locks 3-4 times before sleeping. People noticed. Friends pulled away. Coworkers whispered. One night, after a nightmare left me screaming and drenched in sweat, I went back to the journal from the cabin. Pages warped, ink smudged from snow and firelight. But one entry stood out. A page one didn't remember writing. My handwriting. But shakier. Different. It simply read. They don't need the forest anymore. I dropped the journal. My hands trembled. The next morning, I took time off work. Told them I was sick. Told myself I needed rest. But I didn't rest. I watched windows. Installed cameras. Slept with lights on. Searched online for similar stories. I found whispers, people in Alaska, Canada, Siberia. People who'd gone into woods and come back. Changed. Stories of wolves behaving strangely. Circling. Waiting. Testing. One man posted about being surrounded 12 nights. Another described the same feeling I had. Being watched, toyed with, studied. Their posts always stopped abruptly. No conclusions. No goodbyes. Just silence. That haunted me most. The silence. One night, as I sat on the couch with lights off, watching snow fall against the city skyline, I heard it again. A howl. Far off. But not far enough. I turned up TV volume. Lights on. Poured another drink. But the sound stayed in my bones. Like it was waiting. Calling. Days passed. Then weeks. I tried returning to work. Smiling. Laughing at things I didn't find funny. But I kept one eye on the window at all times. Stopped going out at night. Slept in short, tense bursts, waking to phantom sounds, claws on glass, heavy breathing, something brushing my door. Friends invited me out. I declined. My sister called, concerned. I told her I was fine. I wasn't. One night, I checked the security cameras I'd installed in my hallway. At 3:12 a.m., the feed glitched. For 2 seconds. When it returned, I saw it. A single paw print. Right in front of my door. Perfectly pressed into the floor mat. No other marks. No person. No animal. No way up or down without being caught on camera. I stared at that print for hours. I didn't sleep that night. Or the one after. Eventually, I took the journal back out, flipping to that strange page again. They don't need the forest anymore. I traced the ink with my fingertip. Dry. Old. But pressure marks fresh. As if someone wrote it recently. The next nights blurred together. I began hearing things outside my window. Not just howls. Voices. Familiar ones. I heard my mother's voice, she'd been dead 3 years. An old childhood friend. My own voice once, calling from the hallway. It's okay. Let me in. I didn't open the door. But the handle turned halfway. Then stopped. Just like at the cabin. I pushed a chair beneath the knob and sat up with shotgun. The air smelled wrong, not foul, just wild. Pine. Wet fur. Cold dirt. I didn't sleep that night. By month's end, I was barely functioning. Skin pale and hollow. Voice cracked. I avoided mirrors. Because when I looked, I didn't always see myself. Once, I swear I saw yellow eyes blinking in my reflection. And for a second the faintest curl of a snout. Then gone. Just me again. Sweating. Shaking. I needed answers. So I drove back north. Not to the cabin. Just to the forest's edge. I stopped at a ranger station, asked about wolf sightings. The man raised an eyebrow. A few, he said. Mostly avoid humans. Ever surround a cabin? Watch someone? He gave a long look. No. Wolves don't do that. Right. I turned to leave. He spoke again. You're not the first to ask. I froze. What do you mean? We've had hikers come back. Changed. Quiet. Nervous. Mention howling and watching. Then stop talking. Why? He shrugged. They say once you acknowledge it, it gets worse. What gets worse? He only stared. I left before more. Drove to a motel, locked every bolt and latch. That night, I dreamed of the cabin. But it wasn't empty. Old hikers, rangers, travelers inside. All silent. Pale. Thin. Staring at windows. Waiting. Outside, wolves circled. Not normal wolves. They stood on 2 legs. Their eyes. Human. I woke gasping. Shirt clinging with cold sweat. Throat dry like ashes. Motel dark except for red alarm clock glow. 3:12 a.m., always 3:12. I sat up, reached for light. It didn't work. Bedside lamp. Bathroom light. Nothing. I opened curtain an inch. Outside, parking lot blanketed in snow. Silent snowfall, no flakes in air, world coated like powdered glass. No other cars. I remembered 3 others when I checked in. Now, nothing. Just a single trail of paw prints. Leading from woods. Straight to my door. I didn't sleep. By morning, motel clerk was gone. No sign. I didn't check out. Just drove. But prints reached driver's side. Then vanished. No return trail. Only scent of pine and damp fur. I drove hours past icy rivers, shuttered gas stations, skeletal trees leaning inward. Found a town. Not recognized. But lights on. People walking. Talking. Eating. Normal. First time in weeks, I believed maybe I'd imagined it. That night, a small inn room. Warm, clean. Woman smiled when I joked about nightmares. But something felt old. Not historic. Forgotten. Frozen in time. Phone had no signal. Wi-Fi connected, but no loading. No news. No calls. No emails. Static. I slept with shotgun leaning against bed. Dreamed again. This time, not cabin. Town. Empty. Shutters blown open. Doors ajar. Lights flickering. Center square dozens of wolves. Sitting silently. Staring at me. Behind them, people. Eyes glowing. Like wolves. I looked down, hands covered in snow. Inside. Though it was summer. I woke screaming. No one came. In empty. Walked halls. No guests. No clerk. No staff. Just paw prints. Fresh. Leading room to room. I packed, left without checking out. Outside, town too quiet. I drove south. As far from trees and silence as I could go. Cities didn't help. I thought noise, traffic, crowds would. But silence stayed. Inside me. I rented small apartment. 10th floor downtown. No trees. First night, scratching inside walls. I told myself mice, bad pipes. Then growls. Low. Wet. Intentional. I called landlord. He knocked, flashlight. No animals. Could be your head. Building solid. That night, growling from closet. Shotgun ready, crept across dark apartment. Growling stopped at doorknob. I opened fast. Nothing. Just coats. At bottom wet black fur. Warm. I dropped it like fire. Looked back, gone. Next morning, bought heavy locks. Reinforced windows. Furniture in front of door. Neighbor Seth asked if okay. I lied. Said I'd been robbed, paranoid. He nodded. I hear weird stuff too. Like animals. I asked if he saw anything. Sometimes, he said, he hears howling inside building. Maybe bad insulation, right? He smiled nervously. That night, no sleep. Lights off, listening. Apartment creaked. Cars passed. Then doorknob turned. A nudge. A test. I aimed shotgun. Waited. Nothing. Next morning, Seth gone. Door ajar. Inside nothing. No furniture. No packing signs. No food smell, clothes, pictures. As if never lived there. Center carpet paw prints. Pressed in dust. Leading to wall. Ending there. I reported it. They said 1002 vacant for 3 months. I saw Seth just yesterday. I talked to him. Watched hallway camera again. At 3:12 a.m., screen glitched. Went back, hallway empty. Door 1002 slowly creaked open. Then closed. On its own. I stopped leaving apartment. Groceries delivered. Blinds shut. Slept in living room to see door. Lined windows with salt. Maybe instinct. City moved on loud, busy, unaware. I watched through peephole, like prisoner. Started researching. Found post. They watched the week. No author. No replies. Dense text warning about wolves, not animals, sentinels of boundaries. Between worlds. They appear when something crosses boundary. When someone wanders too far, comes back different. Post read like confession. Ended with, they don't kill you right away. They wait. They learn. They test. If you fail, they take you back. Take you back. To forest. Where they come from. I couldn't stop thinking. Every creak became whisper. Every wind gust, breath on neck. One night at 3:11 a.m. camera glitch again. This time with sound. Soft wet footsteps. A shape large, upright. Fur covered, over 6 feet. Stopped at door. Didn't knock. Leant close to camera now, I live in both places. In the skin of a man, I walk your streets. I ride your buses. I sit across from you in waiting rooms, in cafes, in the dim light of late night bars. I am here, but never truly here. My presence is both solid and spectral, tethered to this world, but always drawn to the edges where it blurs. When the wind shifts, when the moon rises full and cold, when the air smells of pine and frost, I feel the pull again deep in my bones, like a quiet drumbeat calling me home. I remember the forest, the snow crunching underfoot, the eyes watching from the shadows. I remember the howl rising into the dark sky, The weight of their gaze, and the slow, shattering transformation that took me from man to something else. I return. Always, I return. The pack waits not just in the woods, but in the spaces between moments, in the silence between heartbeats, in the flicker of shadows at the corner of your vision. And when I find another like me, someone fractured by loss, broken by grief, haunted by something unnameable, I watch. I test. I wait for the moment they hear the call. Because it is not a choice. It is an inevitability. The forest claims those who listen, who answer its whispered promise. Once you cross into that ancient embrace, the world you knew dissolves like mist. You become something else. A keeper of boundaries. A watcher of thin places. A sentinel between realities. The forest is older than cities, older than nations, older than time itself. It remembers every soul it has ever taken, every shadow it has ever birthed. It breathes through us, moves through us, and carries us forward in a chain unbroken by centuries. We are the line drawn between light and dark, between order and chaos. Neither fully human nor fully beast, but something eternal, a living testament to the wildness lurking beneath the surface of everything you think you know. The weight of this existence is heavy. It is isolation. It is loneliness. It is knowing you will always stand apart, haunted by the memories of who you were and who you are becoming. Yet it is also power. Clarity. A connection to something vast and ancient and true. The days blur together. The seasons turn, but inside me, the change is constant, slow, inexorable. My senses sharpen the whisper of wind through dead leaves, the distant crack of a twig, the flicker of movement unseen. I hear voices in the dark, echoes of those who walked this path before me, who became part of the pack, who gave themselves over to the wild. I walk the city streets by day, blending into the crowd, but by night, I am hunted by memory and instinct.